I just want you to skip back to Exodus chapter 34 and the most important passage in the Old Testament according to the Old Testament. But it's a passage that many of us will skip over. This is the passage in the Old Testament that is most often referred to by the rest of the Old Testament. And it is this moment where Moses has had a horrible day. He's had this incredible literal mountaintop experience with God, goes down with the Ten Commandments, and the people of Israel have gone, up the garden path led by his brother Aaron, and have built this golden calf. And Moses is so frustrated that he throws down the Ten Commandments and shatters them into a million pieces. And now he's having to walk back up the mountain and say, I don't know, can I get another copy of those Ten Commandments? And in all that, and there's this funny exchange where God says, you guys, I don't know if I'll go with you. And Moses says to him, if you don't come with us, I'm not going anywhere. I can't do this without you. I don't know if you've ever felt like that. And then Moses says, show me your glory. And God says to him, this is in chapter 33, okay, but I don't know if you really know what you're asking. We're going to put you in this little cleft of the rock here. And he passes in front in Exodus 34. And this is, as I said, the most important passage in the Old Testament because it is referenced by the Old Testament itself more than any other passage. Exodus 34, 6 and 7. What's interesting is we look at the end of history. We'll be looking at four major ideas people have about what the end of history will look like according to their understanding of Revelation, and every one of them use the word glory in terms of understanding what their understanding of what the end of history is going to look like. Glory is clearly an important part of the end of history. But often because we are here in the 21st century reading an ancient document, we misunderstand what the Bible means by glory. We think that sometimes the glory is like shining lights or applause or something like that. That's kind of in our culture what it means. But when God here reveals his glory to Moses, what he is revealing is who he is. It's his character. He says, he passes in front of Moses proclaiming, the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands and forgiving wickedness, rebellion and sin. Yet he doesn't leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation. What we see here is something that in the Foundations course we simplify down to the words justice, mercy and compassion, because we being Westerners don't have as good a memory as Jewish people do. The Jewish people refer to this as the 13 attributes, so they remember each Jewish word and what each word means and the nuances, because each word actually carries its weight. But for us, it's enough to remember that God, as he reveals who he is, he's this initially this beautiful picture, the merciful and compassionate God. But also this picture of justice. And as human beings, we tend to want to be one or the other. We tend to want to be people who, tell off everybody for being naughty people, or who just give everybody a hug no matter what they do. But God is always perfectly just and perfectly merciful and compassionate. You cannot in God separate those things. And so often I think as we've come to Revelation, we've kind of separated those things a bit and thought of God as sort of we've had the gentle Jesus, meek and mild, now we get the big bad Arnold Schwarzenegger looking Jesus who comes to sort things out. It isn't like that. God will always be perfectly merciful and compassionate and just. And that is who God is. And that is who God reveals himself. It's interesting, in the Gospel of John chapter 1 actually it quotes this book of this reference in Exodus as it names who Jesus is and says that Jesus comes as the embodiment of God's glory. And that's who Jesus comes as the full representation of who God is, as God's glory is actually what John chapter 1 tells us.